You're listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a podcast dedicated to solving the billing issues and gridlock facing the healthcare industry, presented by ProChamp, hosted by Chuck Ellis and Rachel Schools.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to another edition of the Modern Healthcare Back Office. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ms. Rachel Schools. How you doing, Rachel?
I've never been better, Chuck. How are you?
I am fantastic. We are looking down the barrel of 2023. We are looking forward to new things, exciting things, terrifying things, and I am excited that we are starting this year off right with some new resolutions, and I am delighted that we are joined once again by our HME DME expert, Melissa Wagner. Melissa, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chuck. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. And Melissa, we are going to help our listeners, especially those in the HME and DME spaces, start their year off right, have 2023 be the best year ever for them. And we've been talking about setting resolutions for ourselves. It's something that everybody thinks about this time of year. And you've come up with 5 that I think are fantastic things that folks in the HME and DME space and in general should pay attention to. So if you're not necessarily in HME or DME, stick around because these are some really good things that they'll apply to just about anyone. A
Any
healthcare
revenue
back office
cycle.
space, any revenue cycle in a
Revenue.
health office space. But you HME and DME folks, listen up because Melissa's going to drop some knowledge on you. So Melissa, without any further ado, let's get started. So what was the first thing on your mind when I talked to you about coming up with resolutions for 2023?
Sure. Thanks, Chuck. So the first thing that came to mind, because it's upon us and it tends to come at us very quickly, and though we think we're always prepared, next month to 3 months, we're going to be coming into our deductible season, right? Something everybody's familiar with, everybody knows about, everybody dreads, because first thing that comes to mind is what happens to my cash flow, right? Do I bill it and then take the risk of having the deductible hit and having to chase my patients? Or do I delay my revenue and hope that when I make the decision to finally release my claims, that the deductible, and I'll refer specifically to Medicare because that is an easier one to manage, that my deductibles, my patient deductibles have been satisfied and I will have delayed cash flow, not lost cash flow. So a couple things come to mind in terms of really thinking through as early as possible at the end of 2023 or as you close towards the end of 2023. I always recommend that people start thinking about this in November and not necessarily the third week of December, but to plan for a thoughtful strategy and around the risk-reward approach to managing this deductible process. The first thing nobody wants to have is a cash flow issue, but when I say thoughtful, I mean has the provider or have you, as we're speaking to the audience, the provider, really done some thorough analysis around, well, how many of my patients might have a secondary insurance? And those secondary insurances might pick up the deductible. So therefore, I might minimize some of my cash flow delay if that is an opportunity. Have I implemented a good preemptive patient pay collection so that I may be ahead of those things? Am I using my tools in my system to tell me where the patients might be landing in terms of their deductible? So clearly, from a more immediate cash flow standpoint, preparing and planning for thoughtful strategy around managing patient copay, coinsurance, and deductibles, and understanding what your risk reward pitch to that is. I like it. And that's top of the list because that's really right in front of us, and it really does have an immediate cash flow impact. And with that, so co-host here, Rachel, also shared thoughts around that in terms of how growth or the employees that might be involved in those processes and making sure that they're fully engaged, trained, and aware as not only a process issue, but a growth and understanding and helping people understand the impact to the businesses. So I don't know if Rachel, you want to take that a little bit further. I was trying to segue it to that first bullet, but go ahead and take your point away if you want.
Yeah, so I think my key point there was we know that times are changing, right? No matter what software system we work in, we know that technology is creeping up on us, right? And the way that used to be the best way to do something last year or the year before is not going to be the best way next year, right? So one of the things I was recommending, Melissa, is just in addition to diving in and making sure that we're on top of these things, also resolve to work with your employees so that they're ready to grow, so that their mind can be sort of stretched to, hey, this is how we're doing things today, but is there a better way that we might be able to do this, you know, in the future? So any sort of investment, and by the way to do that is investing in soft skills development. So I think that's where I'm headed with that, Melissa.
Sure.
Ultimately, is make a resolution to really, I know it's cliche, I know we keep reading about it, it's silly, right? But really, really work on soft skills development and growth development and helping your employees be very comfortable coming up with new and improved and innovative ways to get things done.
Great, Rachel. Thanks for adding that additional input. I think that in today's environment, we're all hyper sensitive to employee retention. And to your point, when employees feel that they're being acknowledged in a way that helps them grow and wants them to stay in a place where they're comfortable, anywhere we can get appropriate retention is certainly valuable to the business. So thanks for sharing all that. A lot of key points, I think, from a resolution standpoint, that really kind of cascade off of some of that employee growth and engagement, include another resolution to focus on some resource, time, energy, effort on having a very thoughtful payer engagement or payer management strategy.
Mhm.
So I've lived a specific example of this where I joined an organization a couple of years ago, another organization a couple of years ago, and because they had a very solid payer with a regional payer, a very solid relationship, that when it came to a very challenging situation, very easily able to engage the payer, talk through, get them to empathize with our position. And through that, resulted in that the payer actually cutting this provider uh, a cash advance for almost $1 million. As an acknowledgement that there were some issues on the payer side. Because we had that really good relationship, we weren't playing phone tag, we weren't being ignored. And so it's not the last of those situations. Payers are as vulnerable to systems issues, um, key employee changes. And so it's really, really important that, particularly on a regional level, as appropriate to have someone in your organization who has periodic check-ins, get to the key people. So if you do have an issue, or there is a policy change that maybe fell through the cracks, that you'll have some credibility with the payer to maybe get them to give you a little pass on some of those things. So make sure that you're engaging in appropriate and have the resources available to appropriate payer engagement, payer management strategy.
I think I just want to second the importance of this, Melissa, because I can't tell you how many times I'm working AR, things are rolling along fine. All of a sudden, I start getting a denial from, I don't know, Blue Cross Blue Shield of fill in whatever state, right? And it seems to be a trend. And then if we don't have that contact, we're just kind of floundering, right? We can see that there's
Mm-hmm.
a big, huge issue mounting up, but we have nobody to talk to about it. And we're just sort of at the mercy of the payer versus being able to pick up the phone and definitively say, I have 879 claims that are impacted, and really be able to open that conversation and, like you just said, negotiate, right?
Yep. Yep. Everything's a partnership today, right? You're partnering with a vendor, you're partnering with your BPO, you're partnering with your payers, and it really has to be, and there is an effective way to do that. So, yeah, that would be another high value opportunity in terms of a resolution. Make sure that there's a good solid focus on having a good payer management strategy.
Yep.
So,
Great.
along with that, go ahead,
Oh,
Chuck.
sorry. No, no, no. I was wasn't sure if you were waiting for me to transition you to number two, but no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think we're now on to number
Okay.
4.
I was gonna say we're moving along
Oh, we're
fast
moving right
We're
along.
rolling
Wow,
along.
you guys were so seamless. I totally missed the transition there. So, all right. Sorry. Let's go to number four.
No, so yeah, so certainly pointing out a lot of heavy hitter items here, but really things that can't be ignored. And if they're managed correctly, then they will certainly bring the value from the investment. So the fourth thing I think we identified was another sort of disciplined and thoughtful approach to managing our business system is being used. So everything is so transactional, and we may have a series of denials and some trends that we can identify. But making sure that there's an approach to stepping back and know kind of what happened or maybe how it happened from a preventative standpoint. It's not uncommon to learn that there may be just that little tool inside a system that is either not enabled, not configured 100%, really partially configured, that could really bring dividends in terms of preventing denials, help with some of that credibility, going back to some of that payer management approach. If there is some type of an issue, that you have all your ducks in a row and all your systems issues are lined up, and there's no chance that there was some failure within your system to prevent these things from happening. And so it's really important. And I strongly recommend at least a twice a year, and I'll boil this down very simply, a twice a year audit where some of the individuals who may be more subject matter expertise oriented around the system literally go down through each menu option and give it a yes, we use it. No, we don't. Do we know what it is? Should we know what it is? And then there may be some partnership between other services you're utilizing or your software vendor, but it's not uncommon to find some underutilization of those things. And so it's not an extensive or highly resource drained type of exercise, but can become highly valuable. It just continues to bring more knowledge about the system as well. So another key highlight there that having some disciplined approach to auditing and managing the functionality and opportunities for preventative action within a system are clearly key. And a final thought around these resolutions, which really all sort of hub and spoke kind of off each other. So things that are entirely disparate here, but there's the industry is changing always and forever, and that's the one thing that's constant. And so there are Medicare LCDs changing. Oftentimes, this is a time in the year where you see they're publishing these for the new year. Sometimes what can be challenging is that the commercial insurance ones tend to fly under the radar. Maybe the person that received that particular bulletin has not been with your company now for 6 months. And so nobody knows that issue had changed or occurred. So it sort of cascades back a little bit to the payer management issue in some of the systems issues. But really having a good source or resources and a system by which you manage your payer changes, right? Your regulatory, your LCD changes, and should be hypersensitive to the notifications around the PHE change or when that happens and what types of modifier changes. There's a lot of systemic things that will have to happen. And that's been going on so long, people have gotten accustomed to just the way things are, certain modifiers that might be on a claim. And that could get highly disrupted when that change happens. And that could get cascaded down to some of the other government payers and commercial payers as well. So making sure that there's a good solid approach to policy changes, any learning regarding those policy changes in whatever kind of learning management system. A lot of the systems, the business operating systems have also for those purposes, knowledge base. They tend to share information about possible upcoming Medicare LCD changes because the system has to be adjusted or adapted accordingly. So making sure that there's no gaps and that someone has any of these policy or regulatory changes on their radar. So a lot of big things there going into the first of the year. But things, if they're managed correctly, can really bring some great dividends and prevent some what could be potential catastrophes to the business.
I agree. All right, Melissa, I really appreciate it. I just want to leave one last thing, right? Maybe a number 6.
Uh-oh.
Have fun, right?
Yeah. Good point.
That's true.
No, I like your point, Rachel. This business can be very intense and oftentimes very stressful. And so, but to your point, some of the things that I think personally can be fun are when you are going through the system and you uncover opportunities, right? So if we tie fun to opportunity, then I think that makes those exercises all worthwhile, and they're not looked at as some dreaded, oh, there's one more thing on my plate, or where am I going to find time to do that? Look at, again, the sort of the return on investment approach to, well, if I spend half an hour here, I could save $1,000 on the other end, or thousands of hours maybe on the other end, or worse. So I like your segue there, Rachel,
It's
have
never
some
failed
fun.
me. Anytime I have had a big problem in the past, I get the team together and I would say I have a fun project, and they moan because they know fun means something a little different to me. But ultimately, I would try, Melissa, just to make it as fun as it could possibly be, right? And take everybody's feedback into consideration and make it like a
Sure.
you and I have talked about this, a forensic game to solve problems.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, right, if we get the big W, right, all that turns into a big W, a win, 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 right? So we look at our
Exactly.
opportunities, we turn them into fun, and games are fun, right?
They are
Yep.
fun.
Games because they're fun. And what's the most fun about it is when we win.
That's right. That's right. That's it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Melissa, for sharing those. And I hope they inspired you listeners at home to, you know, dig into your resolution list and add a few things to it. But before we go, Melissa, where can people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
Yep. Melissa W at ProChat.com.
Absolutely. And you can find my co-host Rachel at Rachel S. That's RACHELS at Prochan.com. And I am Chuck Ellis at Prochan.com. And we are so excited you're here. And thank you for making it to the end of the episode. If you like what we do, please be sure to like, subscribe, share this episode with your colleagues or your friends if you think it would be useful. And if you get an idea for the show, feel free to drop me a line at chuckellis at Prochan.com. Once again, we thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a presentation of ProChant, a wholly owned revenue cycle management service dedicated to serving HME, pharmacy infusion, and other healthcare providers. Learn more about us at prochant.com.